If a tabletop role-playing game player tells me that they prefer rolling multiple dice compared to, say, rolling one dice, like, say, in D&D, I know there's an issue right away for that person. Maybe they lack some experience with tabletop role-playing games, or maybe they lack a lot of good experiences, and what they tie to the good experience is not really, the reality that's behind that good experience, right? They might think, well, I played that game with multiple dice, I had a better time. Well, that's not what makes, a better time for you at a tabletop role-playing game. I know there are some people in this hobby currently that are fed up with hearing about immersion in tabletop role-playing games. Well, let me be clear about something. A good number of years ago, when they were talking about game theory, immersion, as it relates to tabletop role-playing games, was brought up. And when that topic went away for a long time, so did the topic of immersion. A number of years ago, nobody was talking about it. And I had a previous YouTube channel. I did about 30 videos on immersion and tabletop role-playing games when nobody, and I mean nobody, no other content creator, especially in the old school part of the hobby, was making any videos talking about immersion. But I did about 30 videos on this thing, and it's nice to see a few years after I did that, the topic is talked about by everyone in almost every part of the hobby. Here is my claim. Regardless to how different we think we are, and that we're looking for a different experience, I think every player is looking for the same thing. They're looking for a game that lets them get into their imagination, and through that, to be immersed into the game. And no matter which way you do it, I don't care if you're using figurines on a grid or you're doing a story game, being immersed into the game is what people want. Now, what do I mean by immersion in tabletop role-playing games? It means it's like watching a movie where you're so concentrated on what's going on. You are immersed. And if somebody said your name from 10 feet away, it's not that you don't hear them, you're just not paying attention. It wouldn't be acknowledged by you, right? You wouldn't hear it for that reason, right? It'd just be background noise that you're not paying attention to because you're focused on the movie. Well, players want to be that focused on a game where they're so into what's going on and the picture is running through their head and they're in the excitement of things that are happening. They're immersed. They're on the edge of their seat. And it doesn't matter if the game was well prepped by the game master or not prepped at all, right? It doesn't matter how you get there, right? Sometimes it's on a wild end. Sometimes, it's very organized. But all players want that same experience. And in my opinion, that experience is the drug in this hobby. And once you've had it, once you've had the drug, you're most likely going to be hooked and coming back forever. That's what brings a lot of people, back into the hobby for decades, like to stay in the hobby and keep playing the game and, go from being a 9-year-old little boy to in your 40s, which is my experience. I have played these games for decades, and that drug is what initially got me hooked. And I love offering that drug to my players. And here is what I promise any player. If I can get you to that immersed zone, right away you're going to recognize something. How many dice you're rolling doesn't matter. Even the sound of the dice no longer matter. If you brought something to the table that looks cool, like a big dragon statue, won't matter. All that stuff won't matter. In reality, I could take you into a closet with nothing around. And I could just get into your imagination, and we get that running. And once I have you immersed in your imagination, you'll notice you won't even remember where you are. Like I might have to remind you that we're in a fucking janitor's closet at the end of the gaming session. Because I want to have you focused on, your imagination, what's going on inside of your mind the way you would at that movie. And it won't matter how many dice we're using. Trust me, it's through the imagination that you get there. Now, if it just happens to be that game that's using multiple dice that is helping your imagination and you get to that immersed zone, I can understand why you might confuse that, right? And it might also hint that you don't have a lot of experience, right? It might say that you don't have a lot of experience to know what is really getting you to where you want to get. And it's not the sound of the dice at the table. It's not you up walking around. All that really means nothing once we get you immersed. All that will mean absolutely dick all. It just goes away. And you realize really what you're looking for is to be in the imagination and to be immersed into what's happening there. And that's a gaming session. And to me, I don't care what tools you're using around you. Go ahead, use the grid, use the minis, do theater of the mind, do story games, do war games, do whatever. But if it is a role-playing game, like a tabletop role-playing game, you want to be in your imagination and immersed. And if you're not getting there, you're having a worse experience than somebody who is getting there. So I don't care how you get there, get there. And I have ran games, in person for decades, and I've spent a few decades running some games online, and I can get players to that immersive state through their imagination, either, in person or online. And if I get you immersed even online, at that moment you'll realize that if you had any criticism of online gaming, all that goes away. Just like the sound of the dice, all that means nothing. Once I have you in your imagination and immersed, you won't notice the difference between sitting face to face with me at a table or sitting where you can't see me somewhere else in the world on another computer. It won't matter. Once I'm inside of your mind and I got the hooks in you, well, then it's time to really experience the game. And it won't matter if we're face to face or if we're online. A lot of people that you hear criticizing online gaming or criticizing how many dice, they prefer, compared to just say rolling one dice, like say in D&D, all that comes from people that do lack some experience, or like they haven't had the experience I'm talking about with being immersed, or at least enough to really recognize what's happening. Because once you have enough experience to really recognize what's happening, to recognize what's getting you, to where you want, you start realizing that that's the centerpiece. That's the experience that you're looking for. Especially if you're a player, a game master wants to get there as well, be in the imagination, be immersed into the game. But understand that's what we're looking for. And once you understand that really is the gimmick, then all you need to do is learn how to get in, the player's imagination as a game master, and how to get your imagination going. And then how through that imagination you can become immersed, right? To the point of even if I'm sitting at the table with you as a game master, you're so inside your mind, I hope, picturing what's going on, playing inside the mind, that my facial features, all this means absolutely like nothing to you at that stage, right? You will imagine everything. You don't need to even see what I look like. I could put a bag over my face at the table and it won't matter to you. You'll listen to my voice, you'll take some hints from that, but for the most part, I want you in your imagination. And it won't seem much different from the table to online. So know what you're looking for. To get inside of your imagination and to be immersed. That's all you have to know. That's what you're looking for. Now that you know that detail, stop worrying about the minute things that mean nothing and start focusing on getting to that experience. Anyway, for now, take care. You know what you can do? You can hit the like button. You can share the video. Oh, and there's another button you can press. That one that lets you subscribe to my channel for more content. Oh yeah, there's that bell thing. You can press that so you know when I've uploaded a new video right away.